And that's the one thing people don't realize is when you're making whiskey, you've got to make beer to make whiskey.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. And you got to make whiskey to make barrel-aged beer.
Yes. There's that too.
It's like a circle.
Full circle.
It's like
the
a circle
of life.
All right, everybody, welcome out to the Lager Room. It is Tuesday, February 16th, 2021. Jersey Johnny coming at you, and with me, as always, is none other than Mr. Beer Samurai. Say hello, Mr. Samurai.
Hey, guys. Happy National Almond Day. Got some almonds here.
Today is National Almond Day, is it
why,
not?
Why am I always eating one?
You're always, every single time we start the damn show, you're eating something.
I'm always eating something. These are, what are these? Habanero and tart cherry almonds.
Only you could find habanero and tart cherry almonds.
These are good, actually.
Yeah.
Why are you wearing beads?
Why am I wearing beads? Well, I'm surprised that you started with National Almond Day. Today's Mardi Gras Day.
Oh, so those are Mardi Gras beads.
These are Mardi Gras beads.
Oh, okay. Hold on a second. Let me get
No. Stop.
Oh, okay. No.
Please, don't do that. Please.
Okay.
Oh, my God. I had to do that for these beads. That was bad enough. So.
Oh, man. Who the hell would throw you beads from
They threw them to me to put my shirt back on. So.
There you go.
So, but in any event, yes, happy Almond Day and happy Fat Tuesday, folks.
Now, I have to wash this down with something.
You're gonna wash. What are you gonna wash that down with?
I've got some boat beer here.
You got a boat beer. Is that related to my my
pin? It's related to your hat and your pin.
My hat.
So your hat's from Brooklyn?
No, my hat's not.
You were gonna wear a hat from Brooklyn.
I was gonna wear a hat.
You threw me a curveball.
I threw you a curveball. Man, I wanted you to screw up. So
if we're gonna do prep work, you can't change it. Yeah, this doesn't just happen magically on the fly. Sometimes we prep, and sometimes John screws me up.
I wore the Fat Heads brewery.
That's Chicago. I mean, it's Cleveland, right?
Cleveland, yeah. I wore this because it's because Fat Heads, Fat Heads on Mardi Gras.
Fat Tuesday.
Fat Tuesday.
Oh, that's what I've got this for.
I'm hiding mine. It's below this level right here. So, so anyway, you're drinking. What is that you're drinking?
So this is boat beer. This is one of Carton's flagship beers.
Yeah, they've been brewing that since day one, right?
From day one, and day one. So they've gone to a few head brewers, but day one their head brewer was who's their head brewer?
This guy.
That guy. There he is.
Right here.
So this is cheers, Jesse. This is
everybody. Welcome to the show, Jesse Ferguson, owner and brewer at Interboro Spirits Ales, or Interboro NYC,
and distiller.
And distiller, yes, master distiller, and we can get into a lot of titles. Yes.
I didn't realize I was on.
You are on.
Yeah. There's the big introduction.
There's no
trumpet fanfare, drum roll, or anything. We just bring you in.
Just bring in.
I lost the tab.
So enjoy, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome Jesse Ferguson to the show. There he is.
Thanks for having me. I love boat beer. I wish I had a boat beer right now.
I wish I had a boat beer right now.
Yeah, the best thing is the guy in Rhode Island's the only one with a boat beer.
There you go. Matt Potensky.
Wonder why.
Matt Potensky just said Fat Tuesday, and he also said you're going to need a bigger boat. I'm assuming he's referring to the fat size we were referring to before.
That one never gets old.
Not at all, especially for Dave. There you go.
Nah,
what is this on my hat here? What the hell's going on here?
You left the sticker on it.
That's gangster. Leave the sticker on.
Like all the fly kids
gangster?
do.
It's gangster.
It's gangster. Yeah.
All right. I'll leave it off. What are you drinking there, Mr. Ferguson?
I am drinking a number 500, which I guess has some relevance because this fall we brewed our 500th batch at Interboro. So that was our commemorative beer for brewing 500 batches of beer. It's a double IPA with all Citra and Nelson, and we actually used what's that stuff called? Hops.
Hops.
We used a hop.
How many have you had?
Hop extract called Incognito that we haven't used before, and this beer was canned on October 21st, and it's still really delicious. So I've been advocating that we brew with more of the incognito because the beer seems to have held up incredibly well.
It's great.
Pretty awesome.
That's very awesome.
Yeah.
I'm gonna drink. I was gonna drink an Interboro beer, and I actually was when I went to pick it up, it was sold out. As good beer always is when you go pick it up, when you try to pick it up last minute or whatever. But I did have one of these in the fridge. So this first beer, I'll be drinking something special for my second beer. Don't worry about that. But the first beer I'm drinking is from Source Brewing in Colts Neck, New Jersey, Ultra El Dorado. And the reason I picked this one out of the fridge is because it was brewed by Mr. Jeremy Watts, who is none other than a disciple of the man right there, Jesse Ferguson. They both brewed at Carton. So there you go. There's your connection for this first beer.
Shout out to Jeremy.
Shout out to Jeremy.
Yeah, we just saw him on Saturday. So hello again, Jeremy.
Hello again, Jeremy. And Greg and Phil and everybody else over at Source. Mm-hmm. But Greg was on a show a couple weeks ago, and we just did an Instagram TV thing on Saturday over at Source. And
apparently we have our own channel.
Apparently we have our an Instagram TV. There's a page, Instagram TV feeds page on our Instagram account at the Logger Room. And Matt Potensky just says he was at Source hanging with Jeremy today. Once again, Matt, thanks for the invite.
Yes, good for you. But he's not as cool as us because we were also hanging with Jeremy's dad.
This is true. Jeremy's dad was hanging with us. That was even better.
Joe was there.
Joe was there. In fact, we were sitting drinking beers with Joe. We hung with Joe more than we hung with.
He was doing good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. He's building a house right now. He told us a great story about flipping a Ford Fairlane upside down.
Sweet.
On the highway. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Probably about 50 years ago, but.
He's not doing that right now.
No, he's not doing that right now. But hey, we all got our beer sports. So cheers, guys.
Cheers.
There you go. All right. Now that we've gotten those sips out of the way.
Sip? That was not a sip.
A sip. Oh, yeah.
That was a gulp.
No, for you it was a sip.
For me, that's a sip.
Yeah. I don't know what our sips are to you, but your sip to us is a gulp. But in any event, so Jeremy's a disciple of Jesse, so that's how that links up. But we want to hear about you.
You're the Brewer's Apprentice when we opened the carton.
What's that?
Remember the Brewer's Apprentice?
Oh, yeah.
So that's where Jeremy was working when we opened carton.
Right.
And I can't remember. I was going to the Brewer's Apprentice to buy like odds and ends parts, if I needed a nylon bag or like some DME or some LME because we needed to like up the gravity on something. And I think that's where we met him. And then he came up and talked to Chris Carton and I and was like, I want to work here so bad. And we were like, word up.
He almost got his voice down.
Yeah, really.
We need people who want to work here that bad because we didn't have anybody at that point. So,
it was just you in the back doing everything.
It was me, yeah.
And Freshie working for free cleaning kegs.
Oh, this is way pre-Freshie.
That's way pre-Freshie.
Oh, that's right. That's pre-Freshie. That's right.
Oh, yeah. No.
Was Brewer's Apprentice still in Freehold at the time?
Yeah. I got lost going from Atlantic Highlands to Freehold. I would get lost every single fucking time. I would make the wrong left in some fucking cornfield. Yeah.
Sitting there with the deer. Yeah, I loved that place. Those copper brew tanks they had.
All that stuff was so incredible. It was like such pristine equipment, and you're making what, like 15 gallons of beer at a time? Like, it's painful. That was Jeremy was number one. You know what I mean? Like as far as like other than me, you know what I mean? Well, Doug and Doug was on at that point. It was Doug and me and Augie, and then Chris, and then Jeremy was the first person who came on to do like assistant brewing or whatnot. You know what I mean? Intern basically from the beginning, and then.
Sure.
And worked his way up.
Now, is it true that when you guys first made the first keg of this stuff, that you had it outside on a kegerator, you guys drained the keg and wound up rolling down the hill?
I think we did that because we made like 19 kegs. Like we were. The way we knew it, when I was brewing in my mother-in-law's kitchen in Brooklyn, and then taking the ferry with a corny keg full of boat. like boat 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, And the way we knew if we liked the recipe was if the keg was gone the next day, then that means that was a good one. And check. But yeah, they ended up going back to like number 2. That was it was funny because it was a lot. It was like a year's worth of R&D. And we were like, well, the second batch was the best. And we just
and a lot of grass stained jeans, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. No, that beer is amazing. And that's
I
the man behind it right there, folks.
And I turned it into an acronym.
Oh yeah,
yeah, best of all time.
Oh, it's the boat. Oh, it's
the
that's funny.
Best of all time.
I didn't think of that first.
Oh yeah, when I first
said Augie's probably pissed that he didn't think of it first.
No, he was. When I first said it to him, he's like, "Why the hell did I not think of this?"
Put like periods between it, and like put it on his business card. He could put it on his. It could have been his one of his license plates for one of his orange cars.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
How many does he have now? Jeez.
I haven't seen. I saw Augie was at my brewery last week. It was awesome. I haven't done my Instagram post yet, but we tasted like 9 different whiskey barrels.
Really?
Yeah. What?
That must have sucked.
Yeah, it was horrible.
It must have been hard work. Oh, it's tedious.
I broke my wine thief. I had this really sweet glass wine thief that I've had before we opened, and I broke. This is the first. I mean, I've used it a lot, and just fucking dropped it right on the ground.
You didn't lose it in the barrel.
Yeah, there's a beautiful engineered solution for that. You can't lose a wine thief in a barrel. The handle sticks out further than the size of the bung.
There you go.
It won't go in. They made it that way. Yeah, so Augie was up and we tasted a bunch of whiskey barrels because we're gonna empty a couple whiskey barrels for him to age a stout in for the 10th anniversary coming up in August. So that's pretty exciting because that means I've been brewing beer professionally for just about 10 years.
10 years, yeah.
I actually now I know when people ask how long you've been brewing. I'm like,
10 years.
10 years.
So open 10 years, yeah.
So the question now becomes, are you coming down for the 10th anniversary and holding a 6 over your head with your shirt off?
I got out of it last time.
Yeah. I know you did.
I mean, shit, I would like to come. I don't ever really want to play that role again. Augie has a very, when Augie's drunk, when Augie's been partying or he's very persuasive. And
no, he's not at all. I know what you're talking about.
We'll just have John show up. He'll show up with his beads, and when you take your shirt off, he'll throw them at you.
I'll throw him extra beads at you. There you go. We'll do Fat Tuesday in August.
Fat Jesse in August?
Fat Jesse in August. There you go. Hey, somebody wants to say hi, Jesse.
Who's that? Augie!
There he is.
Talking shit. What is this?
What is what?
John and Dave, yo.
Grabbing beer. You want to?
The boat. Yes, that's funny. The boat acronym for boat. We should just.
Why do we not tell him
now? Because otherwise he's just going to do that for the rest of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, but John's got the power. He can shut him off, and we'll pay for it later.
Yeah, all of us. So
exactly.
Yes, the boat beer is like, and the crazy thing is that like since we opened Interboro, and even when I was at Other Half, like it was like, oh, yeah, we should kind of beers, and like nobody gives a fuck about the low alcohol stuff anymore. I mean, I think Boat got in, and people and enough people in Jersey and everywhere else know it and love it that he'll be able to sell it forever. But I've had a hell of a fucking time trying to introduce anything that's hoppy that's under, 5%. Nobody, it just with all the Hayes boys and all that, nobody seems to give a fuck anymore. I mean, like with the other beer that I've got to drink tonight is like my answer, which is like, all right, well, I'll make this, and it's 6%, and like that's the new session, right? If everybody's drinking 8.5, 9, 10% hoppy beers all the time, then 6% is like totally crushable.
He said, I was like, that sounds like Jesse, but it looks like John and Samurai.
Okay, you got to look at the bottom of the screen, Augie.
Yeah, it's down a little bit, yeah. I just, anyway.
Boat was I'm sure you guys have heard Augie say it a million times, but Boat was what built the brewery down there. And then ODub, which had I had a couple fresh cans of ODub that Augie brought up the other day, and it tasted fantastic. So I was stoked to. That was our sort of like second beer, and then everything else like sort of rolled in after that. Whether it was like red rye and milk and sort of the more traditional style recipe stuff, or like
BDG.
Yeah, and the BDG. Those were all sort of like the ones that we had sort of like fucked around with while we were still before we were opening, where it was like more classic style stuff. I was like, a huge Jamil Zayn, chef, acolyte, constantly listening to his podcasts and like brewing classic styles. Not Jamil Zayn, chef, but another great. I can't remember the author right now, but sort of really sticking to styles and then pushing shit hoppy, because we were just at that point like, hey, let's make hoppy beer is what we like, right? And this is 10 years ago, and at that point it was all about San Diego, and it was all about California, and there was no real East Coast IPA at that point. That was like anything that you called an East Coast IPA harkened back to like mid 90s brew pub explosion, and it was all like malt bombs, that were like
big English malt bombs.
That kind of shit. That's what East Coast IPA was at that point, more or less. I remember Augie and I got to go to San Diego for the Craft Brewers Conference. I think the last time they ever had it in San Diego, because the place they had it at was at this hotel, and by then brewing was just starting to completely go off the fucking Richter scale in terms of the number of people.
Right.
And that conference that year was at a hotel, and after that they were never able to hold it at a hotel again, because it was like they had to have it in these like mammoth conference centers where you could bring like full-size brew houses in. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, so it wasn't that you guys weren't invited back.
Oh, no.
You just outgrew it.
Matt Patensky said Jamil and John Palmer
but not brewing classic styles. That's not the book. That's not the book. It's brewing. Now you guys have to talk for a minute so I can look up the book that
or we can. So Matt Patensky is trying to take Brian's role.
Matt's going to screw Brian out of his producer role. So,
all right, sorry, it wasn't. He's probably right. Brewing classic styles is by Jamil. It's designing.
Oh, please never tell Matt he's right, please.
Matt's right.
Yeah. This book.
That's right. We'll give it to him.
He is.
There we go.
That book.
Yeah, I can never find my camera.
Designing Great Beers. That's the book that I'm
Designing Great Beers.
Yeah, by Ray Daniels. That's like that was basically my homebrew Bible.
You just said Daniels.
Yeah, of course. He said it before I did. Really, right? It's just that you didn't approve the comment in time. So
probably.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, that was and then Boat, no dub. I don't know. Is there any other juice I can tell you about Carton while he's on?
Well, what about your pre-Carton life?
Oh yeah.
How did Augie lure you away from your pre-Carton life to come across what is that body of water?
What is that? The Raritan Bay?
I think the Raritan Bay. Yeah.
And the New York Harbor. I blame BitTorrent maybe for that. If people continued to buy CDs and maybe continued to buy vinyl like 10 years before that, I might have still had a job in 2009 that would have paid me enough to not have to be adrift looking for what to do next with my life. So yeah, I helped to run a record label in New York City called Definitive Jux, which was like a small indie rap label owned by LP, who is now one half of Run the Jewels, for like 10 years, from like 1999. Well, the very, very end of 99 to 2009. That's what I did. And DJ and make beats and run my own little record label too called Embedded. And so, so I was like fully in independent music for like, 10 years of my life, for like a decade. And got into that while I was still in college. And then sort of, my brother-in-law and my sister moved, they got married in New York, then moved to California, worked in wine in California for a few years, lived in Santa Rosa. And my sister worked at like a tiny little Russian River vineyard. And so while they were out there, that's sort of like when I first started like tasting like crazy West Coast beers that I'd never had. I grew up in Colorado. I grew up in Fort Collins. So it was like, I always drank like the joke I repeat constantly is like, when we would send my buddy's older brother into the liquor store to get us St. Ides because we wanted to drink what Ice Cube drank. And he'd come out with, Fat Tire and be like, drink this, it's better, and we were like, daring each other to drink the yeast off the bottom. We were like 13, you know what I mean? Or 14. And like,
that's great.
So I grew up sort of drinking craftish beer or craft beer. My dad like loved 90 Shilling. That was my jam too, from Odell's. And but then when my brother-in-law and sister got out to California, and they lived in Santa Rosa, it was like I would go out there, we would drink a shit ton of wine, but we would also like do like blind tastings of IPAs because my brother-in-law, who went on from being a winemaker to being a beer maker, was just a super geek, like a flavor geek. So he would like, put little rings on wine glasses and we'd taste these IPAs and pick which one we liked best and shit like that. And then he started home brewing. And he ended up in Georgia working at Terrapin. And that's where when sort of I started to make the full transition into Carton, I went down and lived with them for like 2 or 3 months and sort of apprenticed under him. But I can't remember how I got here. Oh, before, yeah. So around 2007, like the record label I worked at, we used to be able to sell like 50,000, 75,000, 100,000 CDs, at like $15 a pop. And we were like super artist friendly. So the artists got half, but we had jobs, you know what I mean? Like we were paying ourselves. And then when people started downloading and trading MP3s and shit, it was just like there was no job anymore in running a record label. I'm not really sure there is any still, but you see people doing it. So I'm not, there's revenue. So after about 8 years of working on a record label, I sort of started to see the end of the tunnel.
Writing on the wall.
Yeah, the writing on the wall. I'm horrible with metaphors.
By the way, on that note, your music, Joe Granat says he used to listen to all that music on that label when he was in high school and college. There he is.
Oh God, I misread that. I thought he said he listened to that music on that label when he was high. It's just a break. I'm sorry.
That too. Yeah, no, it was fun. We had like a big enough following in New York City to play venues like the Bowery Ballroom and like sell it out. So we'd be there and tons of people. I run into people still all the time who were like fans of Def Jux when they were in high school and college. I run into people who were like on our like online viral street team, and we were like send them posters and stickers and shit. It was cool. It was and it was like doing that where I was, it's like people want things to identify with, right? And as I became a fan of beer, the way I had been and was still a fan of music and rap, I sort of identified that like beer could become the thing where like people used it to identify themselves to their friends, and it's a lifestyle thing. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So like,
yeah, we know what you mean.
Yeah. So craft beer is like cool. You can like identify with people and like you can,
yeah, exactly. And then after all of that, you hooked up with this guy.
Yeah, that's this guy right there. Hey, someone crashed the party.
Oh, Players Reserve. You got the pills? Yeah, I should have lager. I'm drinking double IPA all year,
Oh, good. That's what I like you most.
Augie's one of the few people that actually drinks lagers on the lager room.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to open a second, and you guys know this one. Both of you know this one.
Oh.
And how do we say it?
Epitome.
Epitome.
There you go.
So, dude, I was literally just flipping through Facebook, and I heard your voice come out of my phone. And I was like, that was fucking Jesse. I scroll back, and I see these two knuckleheads, and then I did the slide up and saw you. Have you told them I was up there last week? And we were fucking around?
I told them I broke my wine thief.
That's true. But yeah, so you created a disaster for me. Jesse's tasty rice lager.
Oh
boy.
Yeah, he was leaving the brewery after we tasted whiskey for like an hour, but just little really tiny little tastes of whiskey.
Yeah, but if you have like 80 of those little tiny tastes of whiskey.
He said 9. Didn't you say 9?
It was
9. All right.
And then we went up to the brewery. So we keep our barrel room. I wish we kept it. It's there, like a block and a half away from the brewery. And then where the brew house and the distillery are, in the tasting room is like where we opened. I mean, you've been there, right, John? Yeah, you've been there a bunch. Yeah. So we had the Pillsmatic, the collaboration that we rebrewed in January, the carton. We had that on draft. So we went back up to have one of those. And then on his way out, Augie's like, maybe. I was like, you want anything else? Like, I gave him some gin. I gave him some Amaro for his. I hope he didn't drink that on the boat. I can't imagine. He's more responsible than that for sure.
Drink the Amaro on the boat on the way back.
Nice.
But I gave him the Players Reserves because he's like, "Oh, give me some lager for the boat." And then you heard what he just said, and
I'm actually curious as to what it was, but he just dropped off. I don't know where he.
Yeah, he froze first.
He's lost in the.
He's lost in the.
So this is Premier.
Premier is a good beer.
Yes, it is.
I was super stoked because I went to my grocery store where I made friends with the guy who's the owner and he buys our beer, and they had Premier, and it was the batch that was canned like a week ago. So
that's great. I love that. Super fresh.
And this is my Run the Jewels glass.
Very nice.
And shout out to Creature Comforts.
Yes.
There you go.
I didn't get enough shout outs from Infinity War.
There you go. He's back. Something happened.
There he is.
I don't know what happened. You guys were all glitchy. I mashed my hands against the keys as hard as I could, which usually fixes everything. And then
they refer to that's called percussive maintenance.
Exactly.
Anyway, so had you told these guys I was up there tasting whiskeys with you? You did, and the wine tape was broken. So I came home with a bottle of gin and a bottle of Amaro for my wife.
We were just talking about this.
And then
and we were hoping that
he sent me home with a 4-pack of a lager we do, and then this Players Reserve.
It was going to be
Players. Of course it was, but it can't be.
Yeah.
But so anyway, so because I love all the guys, I was like, all right, I'll bring. I drank one of them on the way home. So for my brewers, I brought 3 and 3, and I left this one back behind to do the Carton Brewing Friday night toast with. But drinking those 3, 6 beers, I had one of each with my brewers before I started drinking our beers while they were drinking Jesse's beer. Before I came home to do the toast, by the time it came time for the toast, I couldn't remember where I'd hidden this from myself. So it didn't make it on the toast. So when I saw you zip out, I was like, wait a second. I got a beer I can drink with Jesse now.
There you go.
There you go.
So it worked out.
By the way, this beer's tasty as fuck, dude. Nice work.
It's
that's the specific drinking instruction. tasting notes on the
on the
can.
I still write Jesse's tasting notes.
Says
All
it
these
on,
years
on
later, I
app.
still write Jesse's tasting notes. Tasty as fuck, motherfucker.
That's all Willamette. Or wait, is it Crystal? Fuck, now I forgot. I think it's Crystal actually. Yeah, it's Crystal. It's super good.
Yeah.
Citrus.
How
It's
much
like
how much of the grist is the rice, and what kind of rice is it? Because so there's one of those wit beers I do that's Japanese. It's a little sriracha and some rice in the mix. Is the idea of a Japanese pilsner? But this is the mouthfeel in this thing is fucking perfect.
I think it's probably like 30% rice, and it's a mix of rice, like liquid rice sugars,
Okay.
and flake
like Bud uses, which isn't corn.
only the best. Yeah.
That's right, the finest.
Only the
It's
finest.
fucking tasty, dude. God, I like it. The brewers loved it, but you know that, right? Like, they're not the most discerning judges of pilsners, but if you give them a double IPA and they like it, you fucking nailed it. You give them a lager, they liked it.
Just not a lager.
It's like, hey, good lager.
You gotta love it.
What else are you guys talking about?
Well, I was just gonna ask Jesse I asked a couple things about Interboro, but the Premier you're drinking right there. There was a really good Instagram post with Premier at City Field a couple of years ago. That was
That was a great. The lighting in that picture, and it was incredible how the can was held in just a way to block out the corporate sponsorship.
Out the corporate sponsorship. And I bet the guy that took the picture had to try like 19 times to get it right.
I directed a photograph. I was like, John, that's a great picture, but can you hold the can up a little bit higher so you can't see Cannon? And the next thing I know, there was a perfect picture in my.
There you go, perfect picture.
Yeah, we had our old sales rep Caitlin got Premier into City Field. It was awesome.
Nice.
The best thing about it was that we took like 14 people from the brewery, found the one place where they sell
the Big Apple Brews, the stand.
Yeah. And we were there on like a weeknight. So like apparently like when the Mets are winning, which is never, and on weekends they have like 3 of those things open, the Big Apple Brew places.
Sure.
But when they're losing, which is all the time, they only have one. And and we found it and we bought out all the Premier.
Well, what's funny is the last Mets game that I was at, I was actually with Samurai and the two of us.
But we remember what happened there is I saw a guy with an Interboro can, and I stalked him. I chased him through a crowd and said, "Where the hell did you get that?"
And all he had to do was ask me because I know right where to go.
No. I asked that guy, and I said, "You guys come with me." And it was when we got there. He's like, "Well, I knew this was here." I'm like, "You held on us this whole time. What have we been drinking? And you knew this was here?"
You guys are both Mets fans?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You too, Dave?
This is why we drink so heavily.
Jesse, if the team has any chance, there's no value to John liking them.
Because he can't complain.
All of the values in John's misery. Like, I'm surprised he hasn't switched to being a Cowboys fan at this point.
Yeah, that would be worse.
No, he's a Giants fan. He's a Giants fan. We're both Giants fans.
Yeah, Giants is like, they win. Occasionally.
I like to bitch about them, but they win.
He'll still complain when they win.
Oh,
You'll still his feed is still
all. They'll be up 35-0 in the middle of the fourth quarter, and I'll still be bitching that they dropped the pass. But
always
there's
bitching
actually a funny meme. Actually, it's you talk about the Cowboys. There was actually a funny meme. It says you want to solidify the fact that Brady doesn't win anymore. Trade him to the Cowboys.
Only way.
And then there was one other one that actually said one more goal or something like that was the caption, and it was Brady in a Jets uniform.
Yeah, I saw that one too.
But anyway,
that would change that myth.
That would definitely change that myth.
Yeah, that would definitely change that myth.
Sure, you go. That could be interesting.
It might underscore the goat label.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of the goat label, you mentioned the boat label before.
Yeah, I've said that to you before, Augie. Right, best of all time.
Well, I know
that's what it stands for. It's an acronym now. You need to start putting periods between the letters.
There you go.
Yeah, that beer is pretty fucking great. I was sorry to bring you any, Jesse.
But
well, that was the first beer you missed me. That was the first beer I drank.
But I had fresh O-Dub, though. I had fresh O-Dub from when, like 2 weeks before that or whatever.
So Jesse, actually, gentlemen, I'm going to completely hijack your show because Jesse, drunk on your beer the other night, I was talking to the brewers, and it occurred to me that and I was telling some of our newer brewers the story of O-Dub. For those of you that don't know it, is we were working on boat, and it was during the progression, and Jesse thought we should give it a shot. We were definitely established on Kolsch, but Jesse thought we should give it a shot with Chico. Just to see if that worked too, because that would streamline a lot of things. So he did a homebrew test brew batch of what was more or less the boat recipe at that point, but swapping Kolsch for Chico. And my feedback in our talk was it absolutely didn't work as a 4-2 session beer like we were trying to nail, but it was a fucking beautiful beer and should be beefed up and could be our double IPA. So a couple tweaks towards the double IPA side of the recipe and some hop changes so that they aren't just single and double versions of each other, becomes dub. And I heard, Jesse, when I was flipping through before, I heard you talk about like what the East Coast was and is and becomes. And when I try to quantify these things, I think of West Coast as, you know, enough malts for color, giant 60-minute edition, giant dry hop edition. And then on the East Coast, I imagine it as little malts for smoothness, balancing the hops from boil all the way out. And there's some all the way through. And then what becomes New England is protein heavy malts to body up and everything about aromatics, nothing in the bitter additions, right? So start at Whirlpool and work out. And that's kind of the three styles as I see them. But what I was talking about is those East Coast ones, the Dubs, Cane's Head High, 60, High Lie, you know, all those beers at the time. Because we all got captivated by the aromatics, we stopped evolving that beer. And now 10 years into Dub, I was saying to the brewers, like, I feel like because we got so excited about what could happen, you know, with bombs or aromatic bombs, we never like Dub. I think Dub is still one of the greatest beers of its type ever made. And like you were talking about, fresh, it's a neat thing, and it's a drinker's double IPA, not a ticker or a taster's double IPA. It's a drinker's double IPA. But it occurred to me, we never took all those hops that could have made what we wanted Dub to be 10 years ago. You know, all these hops that have come out since do that mango juicy thing that we were trying to do with Dub better.
Dump them all in the Whirlpool.
We just keep throwing them into wheat.
Yeah.
You know, wheat and oat heavy Whirlpool beers instead of, I was like, we need to do a 10th anniversary Dub. I was saying we should do it with you, but have you ever thought about that? Have you ever been like, motherfucker, if we took Strata?
Yeah, I mean, well, you're saying put Strata in at 10.
You know, basically, yeah. What happened if you did a 60? Like always nugget at 60, right? Because let's face it, that's the religion. Nugget at 60, but then say you threw some take out. This is just sorry guys, but this is just shorthand. But say you threw out Centennial.
We're loving this.
Say you threw out Centennial and threw in something in that kind of alpha range, but in the post-Mosaic world thing, and just tried to stack all those and give it its defining kind of grown-up beer as a bitter drink level of definition, and then totally fucked.
We've been trying to do like, you know, because basically in the world we're operating in, we've got two beers we make all the time, right? Like we're like post carton, right? Interboro is like post other half, where we're like, well, we just have to make a different beer or start 6 different beers every fucking month, right? In order to sort of feed the beast. And where we've landed up is it's like, oh, we'll make Premier and we'll make Bushberg like all the fucking time. So we've got our 6% IPA and our 5% lager, and then everything else are like, well, we're gonna make at least one double IPA a month, maybe 2. We're gonna make another like 6 or 6.5% IPA every month, maybe 2. We're gonna make, you know, we've gotten to this pattern now where we're like, well, let's make a West Coast IPA every 2 months, right? Because they sit a little longer on the shelf and do fine, right? Because you're bumping the bitterness up a little bit. You're getting more of that resiny hop oils into the beer, and it's giving it a little more stability. Plus, you're like, it's clear. So if somebody opens it 8 weeks later and it's clear, they're like, oh no, it's supposed to be that way. You know, you're not like,
what's wrong with this beer?
Yeah, you're not
7 years old. No.
Let's put them out and make them clear, because then they can sit on the shelf a little longer, and people don't have to fucking, be like, oh, it was bad, And so we have been like layered, but we've been doing it, Simcoe, obviously, Amarillo, sort of fall back into some of the more traditionals, but we have experimented with like Sabro and I don't think we've used Strata, but like Belma and like some of the stuff that's like sort of post. It's interesting because it's a good place to put hops that are post mosaic in the like timeline of like hop development or horticulture, but didn't work out 100% for like the juice bombs, right? Because there's
like Equinaut, it was such a place to go, and I can't give it up because I love what it does in a beer, but it's not as fruity as we were promised it was going to be.
No, definitely.
So you can't just dry hop
more vegetal, if I mean, so like you need to get the bitterness out of it. So I mean,
what Citra is to Cascade, Equinaut is to Simcoe.
Sure. Yeah. All right.
Okay. Sounds good.
I still call it Equinox. I refuse to call it Equinox. I call it Equinox because anyway, that's just
I respect IP. I get the
same hop.
Yeah,
potato.
So are we getting so was a collab just born on the show?
That would be two.
No, dude. If Jesse and I made every beer every time we do this, we have a third brewery.
Okay, but since you hijacked the show, Augie, you guys make this. If
I needed to have that conversation.
If you make this beer, John and I are there.
That's fine. So here's the problem with what you're saying.
No. I understand that. I understand.
Dave, yes. I love what you're saying, but here's the thing. Just so
I understand. I've known Augie too long to know what "that's fine" means. That means no.
But here's the thing. So Carton turns 10 in August. This is our 10th year. 10
you
years
can't
ago,
make it now.
Right?
I know what you're saying.
No. What I'm saying is 10 years ago, Jesse and I were sweating out 15 or 20 barrels and making all those choices, and shit was fucking crazy. But we're getting back to it. And I've said it a million times, my current brew partner, Stark, is my favorite brew partner since Jesse, and everything feels like it felt 10 years ago. It's super positive, and I think we're making the best liquid we've made in a long time, and just everything's fucking on point. When I say, hey, what if we do that and it comes out the way I wanted it to, it's all good. But that's put me in this frame of mind where I really want to do something big for the 10th anniversary with Jesse, right? I want to bring Jesse home and
just makes sense,
have Jesse back and have him brew with me. Sorry. But so there's obviously got to be like a bigger, ridiculous triple boat, right? Because boat, I'm sure Jesse said it at some point, but 10 years ago, boat was too hazy, too aromatic, too this and that, too crazy. And then it becomes cloudy. What everybody's doing. Yeah. But back then it was, there was one guy in Vermont making actual hazy beers and everybody else was on their way to it. So that one needs its triple 10 years later. Jesse's fucking making booze. He and I picked two fucking whiskey barrels that we're going to brew a double stout into. That was what that last visit was. So that's two Jesse collabs on the 10th anniversary. Right. And I'd love to redo ODub with all modern hops.
Wait, are you
10
saying
years later
we're doing a triple boat?
We're definitely doing a triple boat.
Would that be a session triple IPA?
Session triple.
It's called SS Jesse's
No,
back.
it's a session quadruple IPA.
Session. That's right, because boat is a session out for double IPA drinkers.
Right. So all you got to do is put four S's
IPA.
In the middle. If you just make it SESSSSION, everybody gets it. But so the problem is I also need to there's other collaborators. There's my new brewer I want to make beers with for our 10th anniversary. That I can't, and we're only really of a design and capacity that can produce maybe 3 beers in package every week.
And how many can Boyle put on?
They can't all be Jesse beers.
How many can Boyle put on? You know what I mean?
Boyle can put on 21, 28 if I'm drinking.
32 if Samurai and I are there.
There we go.
There you go.
Six LeBeau doesn't stand a chance. With
Jesse already said that he will be there and he will have his shirt off and holding a keg over his head.
Did he? No. Yeah, he said that.
No, I did not say that.
He's never missed it, and he's actually a lot smaller than he was in the last couple of years where I made him take his shirt off for the picture. So it's a new Jesse.
Jesse.
I'm just hoping everybody's vaccinated by August, so we're like, all right,
True story.
We can actually get together because Boyle's is fucking tiny. Unless we really should do is you should make Boyle fucking rope off the parking lot, and it should be outdoor.
Jesse, what I love about you is you're forgetting that every year when I come up with a good idea for doing something at Boyle's, Joe's first answer is, or we could not.
You're like, we could enjoy this awesome yard you have wherever.
No. But this year, really, there was a version of a tent in the yard for the anniversary at Boyle's, and Joe and I are two crotchety old men that really love the idea of somebody else doing all that work. But
Dave, I got to ask you a question. How does it feel when Augie calls himself an old man?
Yeah, considering John and I are both older than he is.
But I live a lot harder.
Oh.
Yes, you do.
Cut me open and count the rings.
I was going to say, you may have less rings. They're just darker colored from all the. I was going to make some kind of volcanic thing and get really friggin' geologically nerdy.
I'm going to change the topic back to Jesse. Did you guys talk to Jesse about the whiskeys we were tasting the other day? Because I was fucking.
We were going to get there.
We were about to get there. I had a couple of the beer questions, but I wanted to tell us more about the
someone came in and nerded out on hops for a while.
I'm going to say thank you. Toast you with your own beer, Jesse. It was a pleasure. Get back to my kids. And guys, stop surprising me with Jesse's voice on my Facebook. Cheers, dude. Love you guys. Be well.
Cheers, Augie.
You got it, Augie. Thanks. That was a Dave sip right there.
There.
Anyway. I can't come to New Jersey without seeing that guy, y'all.
Apparently, last week you couldn't go to work without seeing that guy. So.
Yeah.
So tell us about these.
So back. Let's finish up some.
Oh, you want to back up? Oh, let's finish.
Back up to the beer. You've opened Premier. Tell us about some of the. Obviously we've all heard Augie and you back and forth with the IPAs and everything else. As far as some of the names, obviously that came out of Run the Jewels and everything else you're doing, Mad Fat Fluid, so forth and so on. I want you you like giving a nod to your former life. Your
90s East Coast hip hop is essentially where a lot of the stuff comes from. I try to make them like names that sort of mean, what people that are phrases that people would like to say anyway.
Right.
Like we just did our Valentine's beer. It's Real Love, which is a double IPA. We've made it 4 years in a row. And it's got a big heart on the label and it's pink. It's awesome. So
cute.
But it's it's Mary J. Blige and Big and remixed by Puffy with Biggie Smalls, and it's just that's where I land up for the most part, in terms of the names.
So you got the hip hop take on what Single Cut does with classic rock.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah. So like. I'm like a huge Nas fan, so there's a bunch of that are Nas, and it's fun because in New York, then we were able to do when we were open, we could have DJs out and stuff. We do, we had some really incredible DJs at the brewery, and that's the kind of stuff we want to keep doing. The front of the brewery is painted by my old friend Bisco, who's like an incredible muralist who started out. As a graffiti writer in Connecticut and in Queens and and worked with me at Def Jux, and I put some of his music out on my own record label, and then he sort of is blowing up now as a muralist and painter. So it's it's a lot. A lot of it is just sort of tying into the community that I have around me.
Is he responsible for that giraffe on the building right down the road?
Giraffe?
No, yeah, that's around. That's over by KCBC.
Oh, that's KCBC. I always get them mixed up.
That's next door. That's next. That's the next building. That's right. Building next door to KCBC.
That whole birthday tour is a blur.
Yeah, that was 4 years ago for you, Anna.
That was 4 years, almost 4 years.
Almost, yeah. In April, it'll be 4 years again.
And we wound the end of that tour wound up at Interboro.
At Interboro, yeah.
It was the last brewery.
End of and the longest part of the tour.
Was I there?
Yeah, you were there.
No. You were doing. No, he wasn't. He was. You reached out and said that you had a family event that day, so you couldn't make it.
Oh no. He was. You were on upstate New York.
Yes,
that's where I was texting you that we were there, and you were.
Yep.
That's where my family. That's where my family hid for COVID. Was like west of Kingston. My mother-in-law's had a place up there since the 70s.
Yeah.
Well, it's beautiful up there.
All during COVID, my wife and kids were up there, and I was like driving back and forth, doing like 4 days in the city, and then 3 days up there and then back, and it was crazy.
That's crazy.
During like the crazy shit, you know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah,
yeah. Gene was on that one.
Hi, Gene.
But whatchamacallit? Yeah, that was what happened that day. I texted you that we were there and we were coming, and you said you were in upstate New York. So yeah, but we spent we did a lot that day, didn't we?
Did a lot that day.
Yeah. But in any event, back to Brooklyn. Whatchamacallit? So spirits. You decided when you opened. So you decided when you opened up Interboro, you wanted to do
my
spirits.
business partner Laura.
Right.
And the reason we're business partners is because, well, other than just, being friends and deciding that we wanted to do business together.
I've met her, yeah.
When we met, she was in the process of like trying to figure out how to open a distillery. She'd worked sort of at a corporate level with Diageo, and then as an investor and sort of more day-to-day type stuff at a local distillery here in Brooklyn. And she was trying to figure out how to open a distillery. And my nephew, my wife's nephew, really not my nephew, but my wife's nephew, is a good
my marriage is your nephew, so
yeah, I guess by marriage, right?
Nephew-in-law.
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 Who's older than me and older than my wife by like the fact that like my wife has a half sister who's 25 years older than her.
My mother's youngest sister, it has her kids are younger than my kids. She's only a few years older than me.
Right.
So yeah.
So my wife's nephew knew Laura, lived down the block from her, and they were really good friends, or are good friends. And he knew that I was looking to try and do something in Brooklyn because it had got to a point where it was like going to Jersey every day. It was like when we opened Carton, we were like, all right, well, we'll probably move to Jersey. And then after 4 years, we were like, well, we bought a house in Brooklyn. We're going to stay in Brooklyn. We wanted to stay in, we decided we want to stay in Brooklyn. And so at that point, it was like, all right, well, we should figure out how to get me back to Brooklyn. So I wasn't driving 2 hours a day. Which is bullshit because I drive an hour. If I drive to the brewery, it takes me an hour.
I was going to say,
you know what I mean? Like
it's probably quicker to Carton than it is to get to
yeah, sometimes, yeah. So we met and we spent a year. It's funny because you guys had that quote on the beginning of the show about, well, if you want to make whiskey, you got to make beer first, and then and it was like we had that whole. Like,
I guarantee you that's why John pulled that out.
Absolutely.
Oh, so that's not like
no. There's a different intro, different banter back and forth on every intro. So
yeah, he catered it for this show.
So I was like, I didn't even know that. You know what I mean? Like I had, at that point I'd been home brewing for 5 years or whatever, and then brewing at Carton for 4 years, and didn't really know shit about whiskey other than I liked it. You know what I mean? And so I sort of did like a crash course over a year in figuring out that like it's you not only is it you do have to make beer before you can make whiskey, but you essentially get all the same equipment, and so once we like mapped that out, we were like, all right, let's see if we can do this. And for me, it was and continues to be a driving sort of creative motivation for continuing to learn more about alcoholic beverages and the creation of alcoholic beverages, because I'm not, I would never say I think beer is boring, you know what I mean? but it definitely, it's added a whole new dimension to the sort of alcohol beverage production for me in terms of things to learn and flavors to learn and how to like sort of tap into different processes and ingredients and how to make things taste the way you want them to taste. So it's for anybody out there who doesn't know, right? In order to make whiskey, you first basically just make a wash of beer. It has a lot of different words. Wash is one term for it, or beer is one term for it, right? You just don't put hops in it, or in America, typically referred to as a mash, right? Because they don't lauter it, they don't filter it. So then it's the barley or cereal grain and water still. The Scotch tradition is to lauter it, is to separate the wort from the grain, which is what we do for the most part. So that's why when Augie was talking about the barrels, he made sure and corrected himself and said that it was whiskey, not bourbon, right? Sure. We primarily make straight malt whiskey. So it's essentially, barley mashes that we formulate the recipes just like we would a beer, where we're picking flavor, grains for flavor and color. Color because it's going to impart flavor in the final distillate. But it is pretty incredible how much you can taste the roast barley or like chocolate malt or something like that in the distillate once you've run it through the still. And then it's also like hand in hand is all those same flavors that are produced during fermentation can be captured in distillation. So we obviously don't hop anything that we're going to turn into a whiskey, because you don't want to cook hops two times, because it'll just be ultra bitter and herbal and nasty,
undrinkable.
Sure.
Yeah. But all the different grain profiles and all the different yeast compounds and flavor profiles that are created during fermentation can be captured in distillate. So it's a ton of fun. And then you're putting it in a barrel and age, like the stuff that Augie and I were tasting was minimum 3 years old. Some of it over 3 years old at this point.
Oh, wow.
And
that's great.
So John, the opening that came out of the Tom show, right?
That came out of Tom's show.
Yeah, so this guy's known as the whiskey whisperer. So next time I get to Brooklyn, I have to come and grab a bottle of your whiskey to send out to him. He does a Facebook show, and he likes to pair whiskeys and beers together.
Oh, that's cool. So like our whiskey, we're going to release our first whiskey in May. It's going to be a straight malt whiskey that was aged for 3 years in first use American oak from Arkansas.
Nice.
And then finished, we racked them into Woodford double oak barrels last February. Nice. So they were finished for a year in those Woodford barrels.
Lost your ability to call it a bourbon by doing so, right?
No. Well, we couldn't call it a bourbon.
Kentucky, you can only make a bourbon when it's in Kentucky.
No, that's not true. That's not true. It's the level of rye and corn, and it has to be newly first used American white oak barrels.
Well, you can call it.
You can have a bourbon outside of Kentucky.
But that was always the rule of thumb.
It would have had to be. Nothing I'm doing is 51% corn.
Right.
It's got to be, yeah.
So I lost the ability to call it the day I made it.
There you go. We actually have there's a distillery up here that they do a whiskey, but their base beer is actually a stout.
Yeah, you've said that a couple times on the show.
So
I love that thing. It's called Uprising by Sons of Liberty, and they haven't made it it's not available right now. They're killing me.
But so all those flavors from stouts are they transfer into the distillate, and then that all gets captured into the wood. You know what I mean? So yeah. It's pretty awesome. We do a bunch with stouts. We've done collaborations for whiskeys. What we do for our imperial collaborations is we'll do a giant mash, as big as we can in our mash tun, collect the first runnings, make an imperial stout in one of we have these little 7-barrel fermenters. So we'll do an imperial stout in a 7-barrel fermenter, Then we'll collect all the second runnings to make a whiskey wash with, right?
Nice.
So what we end up with is the math is we'll end up with like enough fermented stout to bottle roughly 2 barrels, brewer's barrels, 31 gallons into bottles fresh, fill 2 53-gallon barrels for aging, and then enough beer to distill to fill a full barrel of distillate. So from one mash, we're creating 3 products essentially, which, and when Laura and I got into this business, a lot of the whole sort of ethos was let's blur these lines as much as we can to some degree. You know what I mean? Like let's show people that let's do as much as we can to teach people. You know what I mean? Because I think that like a lot of that geekiness that goes along with people becoming passionate about stuff is the knowledge, right? Because when you're like social networking with people, you know what I mean, making friends, and it's always been this way, right? Like if you're a part of a music scene or into sports or whatever, it's like you bond with people by geeking out a little bit about knowledge, right? About sharing stuff that they didn't know, and and you're like, oh, you didn't know so and so used to be in this band, and he was the drummer for this guy, and oh, word, I love that band. You know what I mean?
Sure, absolutely.
And we've never had those conversations, Sean, have we?
No, not at all.
And so it's like, I think that like the more information you can provide people about your processes or your ideas and thoughts and the thoughtfulness and the care that goes into making the products, that's what lets people be like, oh, I'm going to buy into this. You know what I mean? Like this is something that I believe in. You know what I mean? Right. And I hate to make it sound like buying in because it's just being human, right? It's just being like, oh, I like stuff. I'm going to share that with the people that I know who like things too. You know what I mean? So, so that's been like, that was sort of driving factor. And so I'm excited to be getting to the point where we're going to be bringing some of that whiskey out and then showing people what we were able to do with our brewing friends, making whiskeys out of beers or from the same mashes and stuff like that.
Right. I have I've a couple of things I wanted to ask you, and keep that in mind, Samurai, when he's releasing the whiskey. It's probably going to be a good time for you and I to go to Brooklyn and do an Instagram TV show from Interboro.
From Interboro, I cannot wait to get back into Brooklyn.
Yeah.
The only problem is,
wait to have you.
The problem is the best way to get into Brooklyn, especially if we're gonna hit Interboro, is train. And right now, yes,
the best way to get into Brooklyn, the easiest way to get into Brooklyn is for me to drive us, and I'll just stop drinking at a certain point.
Yes, so that you might have to be our DDD. We do not recommend this.
Matt wants to know if we need a cameraman. Yes, Matt, you can come with us and you can run the camera. Absolutely.
We'll
in fact, if you want to drive, that's even better too.
Oh no! I'm pretty certain Matt doesn't want to drive.
But speaking of your, you were mentioning collabs before, and you mentioned the imperial stouts and barrel aging them and everything else.
I was just laying that one out for you, John.
You threw me a beach ball. You threw me a beach ball. So now you've recently released a collab with a brewery. Hold on a second.
Down in Jersey somewhere.
Augie said it's by boat. That's how we're going to get there. That's the best way to get there, by boat. So that's what we're going to do. Actually, it's true, but. Yeah,
okay. So we're all just going to shack up at Augie's place and take the Sea Streak in.
There you go. He says he just went there by boat. Yes, we did. We talked about that. Hey. So, whatchamacallit? So we went, we were talking about that before. You just released a beer with a brewery in New Jersey, not Carton. But
incredible, right?
That other one
in Monmouth County.
That's going to be celebrating 10 years very soon.
They're going to be celebrating 10 years as well this year. What's the name of that? Oh, that's a Kane.
That'd be Kane.
And that was a special counsel, right?
Those guys right over there.
Yeah. So special counsel.
That's what I'll be drinking right here.
Yeah. So that's beer aged in barrels for 2 years.
2 years. This is
2 years.
I'm drinking a 2-year aged.
Yeah. Because after 1 year, we were like, nah.
that's
needs special. Another one.
It needs another one. Yeah, exactly. And that one, we made a whiskey from. So that would have been what, 2 years ago? Was There's 2 years in fall.
So it's been the fall of 2018.
So, so you took this and distilled this to a whiskey as well?
Yeah, that we did like right away.
Oh, wow.
Michael and Glenn were both like super excited to come sort of check out the distillation process. And actually, Michael brought the barrel that we're aging it in, the whiskey, was a barrel of Night to End All Dawns that they brought up for us at that point. And then he also helped me source because I always bought, for whatever reason, I always buy Heaven Hill Distillery. Like, I don't know. Heaven Hill.
You like it.
Yeah, Heaven Hill and sometimes Sazerac brands like Buffalo Trace and like all the, all those. But Michael uses there
you go.
What the fuck is it? It's not. Well, it's the people who make Woodford, right? It's
Okay.
Oh God! Now I'm drawing a blank on it.
Well, it's like Buffalo Trace is a Sazerac.
The stuff that we got was Old Forester. It was Old.
Oh, really?
Old Forester.
So that was aged in Old Forester barrels for like 2 years. Yeah. So and then we've done that mash bill a couple times, and so we've got a couple different whiskeys of it down. I mean, the other great thing about making whiskey is that like, there's no shame in blending, right? So it's like everything's blending stock too, right? Everything is like, well, we got the 3-year-old and the 4-year-old, or the 2 and the 3, and we got the fresh oak versus the previous the ex bourbon or the ex beer or whatever. So it's all a blending game as far as I'm concerned when it comes down to it. So we're excited about that.
So how you liking that beer, John?
It's crazy.
Adjunct one?
What's that?
Is that the adjunct one or is it the barrel one?
Yeah, no, it's the adjunct. It's the vanilla pecan, but it's the barrel aged vanilla pecan.
Yeah.
Oof.
But yeah, it's not over the top vanilla and pecans. It's or pecans if you prefer.
Pecans. Pinky out.
Depending on the latitude you're on. But in any event, no, it's crazy. I mean, the stout itself, you can tell, is just insane, and the aging was
lots of special B in there.
Oh yeah,
that's for Augie.
Oh, you're special being here.
So what's the name of the whiskey that this turned into?
I don't know.
The non-adjunct. Oh, you haven't even named it yet. It's in their agent.
So I was at the time in 2018. I was a big fan of Robert Mueller. So I mean, it was special counsel because it was like
right.
So I mean,
there you go.
And also because have you guys ever had Ambassador, our Imperial Stout?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I have not.
So Ambassador was our first Imperial Stout. And so
he said, "Oh boy,
did I piss somebody off?"
No, that was Augie.
It was the special B. Here he goes.
Special B.
You will special B anything.
Yeah, you'll be my special B. So the Ambassador sort of set the tone. I'm big on like naming sort of protocols or whatever, right? So like all the IPAs are hip hop basically. But try to do the Imperial Stouts with like these sort of like, I don't know, what's a adjective that describes what ambassador or special counsel or
political, diplomatic.
Diplomatic. Yeah.
I don't know. It's been hard because honestly, the stouts are really named after fuel oil trucks. You know.
We've got that's awesome.
You know, you're a fuel oil truck.
Fuel oil company down here in Monmouth County is Special B fuel oil.
But you know what the best thing? You know what the best thing is up here. One of the fuel oil trucks that you see all the time is Noonan.
Noonan, right?
So every time I see it, I go Noonan.
So our session stout is called Approved, and if you're in Brooklyn, you will see an approved oil truck like twice a day. I mean, they're like, it's approved oil, it's everywhere. And I really I love fuel oil trucks because they're all got that super sort of like post World War II era hand painted signs, right? With the cool the fourth drop shadows and the really bold colors and the high contrast. I love old signs. I love old
Sure.
hand painted signs so much. And so approved Olympia, Citywide. I mean, the list just goes on. Like they're literally Ambassador. And so Ambassador is a brand of fuel oil. Like I once saw a truck that was Ambassador on the side of a fucking fuel oil truck. And so it got that name. But then I was like, well, I got to differentiate the Imperials from the Sessions. So I then took the Ambassador down
in another direction. Yeah.
Down the road of like, oh, and I'll make it like this sort of diplomat, sort of special counsel, sort of, an ambassador, sort of. We made a version of Ambassador with New Mexican chili that was a collab with my buddy at Santa Fe Brewing, and that was called Santa Fe Diplomat. And I've done that a bunch. That one's a lot harder to come up with more variants on. Like,
we must have the same kind of like insanity, because I've got a couple of pictures of some of the fuel oil trucks up here. I will send them to you.
I love fuel oil. I used to have an Instagram account. I lost the password.
Really?
Yeah, I had like it wasn't like a library of fuel oil trucks, but I had like 6 or 7 that I also. The greatest thing, every brewery I've worked at Brooklyn has been within blocks of a fuel oil depot. So I would like go out to lunch at other houses, and there'd be like 2 or 3 fuel oil trucks just getting like filled up at the depot right by the Gowanus.
Yeah, you don't want to be open fermenting.
Yeah, no, not in Brooklyn.
This picture's on my Instagram.
I can't see it.
Yeah, we can't barely see
it.
Is that Suburban?
It's a fuel oil truck. It says Santa on it. That's why I took the picture.
Oh, Santa. No, I'll send you a couple of my.
It's actually in Connecticut.
There, Jesse.
It's actually in Connecticut on the way up to Boston. I took the picture, but
one of them is Noonan. I think the other one's called Ginger.
We did a stout with my buddies from Hudson. Oh God, now I'm blanking on the name of the brewery, and called it Atomic, because there's a fucking truck running around New York City full of oil that says Atomic on the side of it. The O is a neutron. So it's
nice. Like, beautiful.
It's fuel oil, and it's a neutron.
So
quick side note. The day I took that picture on the Connecticut Turnpike going up to Boston, we're going to EBF. The afternoon that I took the picture and posted it on Instagram, later that night, you and I were drinking at the Tip Tap Room after EBF in Boston.
You and me?
You and me, yes.
Oh, yeah. That was like 2 years ago then.
3, actually. That was.
Oh.
So I'm actually going to open mine next. You recognize
it. Uh-oh.
Yeah, I actually found this up at the liquor store down the road from me, Nicky's. The things that they carry, I don't know how they find some of these things.
Well, that was canned in September. So
yeah, I know. I know. It's kind of.
Well, you're drinking one that was canned in October, right? So.
But he had the
early one. Oh yeah, that's right.
The one I had. I love this beer that was canned in October.
You know what? I mean, honestly, if it's brewed right, it's a year or more. I don't know if it's going to be a problem, but 6 months.
Still smells beautiful though.
You're fine.
Really? Oh, good.
Yeah, it smells beautiful. I'm putting it in my. You can't see the logo too well on the lighter colognes, but that's the
Beer Samurai logo.
Yeah, they got the Samurai logo on there.
If you watch the Instagram TV post from Source that we put up on Saturday, Dave's actually wearing a face mask with the Samurai logo on the side.
I think
he's branding himself.
I may have left that in the hotel room. I need to order more of those.
Oh, there you go.
But we when we get merchandising, we may put those up for merchandising.
There you go. The log room caps are actually doing this week. So how was that?
That actually helped. Yeah, that held up pretty well. You don't get much.
Of course, it's going to be extremely
fade.
Incredible fresh, but
Yeah, no, I'm sure there's
drinkable right now, right?
I'm sure there's a hop fade.
Yeah. Lottie Dottie was one of the first 3 beers we ever made, and that one was canned in August of 2016. No, just kidding.
August of 2016. That was a good month. I like that month.
August 2016 was when we brewed our first beers, and we brewed Bushberg Saisonnière, which is like we make a saison like once a year basically, and just call it Saisonnière.
That was on tap for the birthday crawl. Johnny.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
And then we made, and Lottie Dottie was the first hoppy beer we made. Premier was the first beer that we canned.
Okay.
But those were the first 3 beers, and then we made a gin mash. One of the first things we did was make a gin mash.
This is still juicy.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it's still juicy. Yeah, you've got a bit of fade probably in the. Well, I haven't had it fresh, but I imagine the hops have faded a little bit because they're really not punching.
Yeah, it's a wheat heavy mash bill.
Okay, and I know that when you brew a beer with hops, you like the hops to punch. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm. And since they're not destroying they're not destroying my palate right now. I know there's got to be some hop fade.
Well,
is there?
I'm sure there's hop fade.
Yeah, it's got to be.
It's got to be hop fade, right? Well, you don't know what it. Yeah, you don't know what it was like when it was fresh.
Yeah, I don't know what it was fresh, so I've got nothing to compare it to. But knowing Mr. Ferguson's hoppy beers, this is not at that level.
So then you had the fade. Yeah, there you go.
So it's got to be fade.
So speaking of Mr. Ferguson's concoctions, I wanted to get back to your distillates for a second. Without blowing any smoke, you and I have known each other for a very long time. Your gin is some of the best gin.
And John is a gin whore.
And I'm a gin
really?
whore.
Yes, he is a gin whore.
I had no idea.
You had no idea that your gin was good, or that
no,
I'm a
that
gin
you
whore?
I knew you loved gin. If I knew you loved gin, I would have been, pumping you full of gin more often.
So it's and your canned gin and tonic is just ridiculously good.
Yeah, when you started canning the cocktails?
That's where I was going with this. Perfect.
Yeah, so you started canning these cocktails. When did you start doing that? Because you were ahead of the curve on this.
I want to say like 2018 was we canned the gin and tonic, and then going into 2000, or was it 2017 going into 2018? Because then that would have been all of the summer 18, all of summer 19. No, it was summer 19 was the first summer we had them. So it was fall of 2018, and we did the what we call the OG gin and tonic, which is just the gin and tonic with lime.
Yeah.
And then in summer of 2019, we
had a hibiscus in there too, right?
The hibiscus gin and tonic,
yeah.
and later, and then in
must be a pretty drink.
And then later that summer, we introduced the gin and juice, which was ginger.
Gin juice. Oh, what was
that?
Is
there a picture of Snoop Dogg on the label of that one, or?
And that's like ginger lemon, and then. We sort of ran with those all summer of 2019, and then last summer we sort of ran with those again. But then we introduced a bunch of tiki cocktails. I don't know if you guys got to try any of those.
Yeah, I've seen them. Yeah.
Mad Proud was our gay pride month, and then Mai Tai Colada was a collab with Equilibrium that was like a coconut pina colada. Not really a thing, but like a Mai Tai and a pina colada mixed together.
Mai Tai colada.
It's a thing now.
Yeah,
pina Tai
with banana. Like that beer was that cocktail was good.
So it's coconut, banana, and
pineapple.
And pineapple,
yeah.
Now so after you started doing that, you start seeing other breweries that do distillates and also other distilleries start canning their stuff. That started coming out. And now you start seeing breweries making cocktail-inspired beers.
Yeah, I see a lot. But I feel like that, I feel like that was sort of there. I don't know.
It's even more like what I'm wearing now.
More often than they were. But they've been around for a little bit. But yeah,
Deciduous Deciduous makes something right now. You drink it, it tastes just like almost exactly like a Mai Tai, but a little on the sour side.
Right. Yeah. So you remember how you talked about is Almond Day?
Yes, it is.
It's Almond Day. Yeah.
What do you got going?
Almond flavor is a big component of a Mai Tai. No, what's it called? Wait, what'd you say?
I said Mai Tai.
No, but so Mai Tais have almond extracted alcohol flavor component. I'm drawing a blank again on the name.
Amaretto?
No, it's not amaretto. Talk for a second, and I'll look up the recipe.
So, John, how things going? What's for dinner tonight?
Chicken. Actually, chicken stuffed with mozzarella and spinach.
Spinach.
Orgeat.
That's
okay.
Okay, that's right.
Is an extraction of almond oil in alcohol, and that's a key component in a Mai Tai. And that's the one thing I didn't put in the Mai Tai Colada because I was like,
how's the almond going to play with the coconut and the...
Well, arsenic gives you the same flavor, right?
Well, cyanide, when you smell cyanide, you smell almonds, right? I mean, so...
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, so and then we have an Amaro. Like I was saying, we make an Amaro called Lexical that is grapefruit peel infused or extracted in New York State apple brandy and then blended with gentian extraction and neutral grain spirit.
Have you had the Amaro?
I have not.
Yeah,
it's have to get you some of those.
No. Like I said, as soon as things kind of loosen up a little bit, when I'm back in Jersey, definitely, we want to take a trip into Brooklyn. Brooklyn is, a lot of my family's from actually the Lower West Side and Brooklyn. So that gets me back to my roots a little bit.
The Lower West Side, the Village.
No, the Lower West Side of Manhattan, yeah.
Yeah, that's the Village, right? Okay.
Well, I'm Polish. That's where like the Polish conclave in Manhattan is.
Oh, okay.
So well, that side of me is Polish anyway. Well, maybe this
his right side. His right side is Polish. His left side.
Yes.
His right
the wrong side is all kinds of other shit. But the so I need to get back to Brooklyn. Every time I go into Brooklyn, last time I was in Brooklyn, usually it's some really convoluted way to get there because John has his paths he likes to take.
They're the best way, trust me. They've been perfected over the last 30 years.
They're the best. They're not the fastest, but they're the best. But the last time I was in Brooklyn, I think it was with you, Johnny. What was closing?
What was closing?
We were there for a craft beer bar that was closing its doors.
Oh, Muggs Ale House was closed.
Yeah, when Muggs was closing.
Man, Mission Dolores was closed today.
What, Mission Dolores closed?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's awful.
Well, Eddie closed.
So much shit is closed.
What about his sister? I can't remember the name of the sister bar for Mission Dolores.
The Wiley brothers have I think it's 5 places: BGH, Al Farm, Mission Dolores, Glorietta Baldi, and
cheers, Matt.
So we're in this
the trophy.
The city's been it's tough because it's everybody's just trying to struggle to get by, and with the on-premise closure as long as it's been, a lot of our customers. I mean, we were 75% draft in Brooklyn, Queens, and Manhattan. That was that was 75% of our business. Basically, was selling kegs to bars in 3 boroughs of New York City, and it's just it's been decimated. It's
gone. Yeah, it's gone.
I mean,
you just broke my heart by telling me Mission Dolores is gone.
I know.
Miss Eddie closed Muggs. I mean, it's before that. It was
that was pre-COVID. That was
pre-COVID. That was June of 2019.
That was landlord shit, right? That was lease.
Well, no, Eddie owns the building.
Oh, really?
He was done. He just 27 years. He had Muggs open. Him and his wife. We talked to him that day. We were BSing with him. He told me, he's like, John, he's like, we're done. He's like, because he lives all the way out on the island, and he was driving to Brooklyn every day. He's like, yeah, I'm done. I'm done. 27 years, I've had enough. He owns the building. He's still got the rents upstairs. He's just shutting the doors. Yeah. He's like, you want to buy it? I'm like, I don't know.
No.
So, could you imagine if I did? 6 months later, I shut down.
Oh, that would have been brutal.
That would have sucked.
It's not been brutal enough for you as it is, right?
Right. But anyway, that really sucks that Mission Dolores is closed. But
yeah, that's heartbreaking.
And I mean, it's been tough. It's been tough all around. But you know what? Breweries have been finding a way to do it. And we were just talking about this, Samurai and I, before. the podcast. I mean, every brewery, is, obviously you're like everybody else. You're canning more product than you did before, right? Because you're not putting way more. Yeah, because you're not have the draft lines, and
that's why there's the aluminum can shortage.
There's an aluminum can shortage. There's more breweries in other states because obviously everybody's canning so much beer, so they have a surplus of what they can sell. So they're looking to get into other states. That's why there's so many breweries coming down from New England down to New York and New Jersey.
Yeah, that's why Heady Topper has left Vermont and shows up in other states. And we were talking because I was talking to the owner of my local beer store where I go. I throw so much of my paycheck to this guy. So. I was talking to him, and he was bringing it up the fact that a lot of breweries without the liquor stores having the cans on the shelves from all over, a lot of these breweries may have gone under without that outlet.
Yeah, that's where they got it going. I mean, liquor stores. I mean, I've talked to a couple distributors down here in Jersey anyway, and they tell me they're actually up. Their numbers are actually up. They've lost significant, obviously, draft sales. There's barely any draft going out. There's some, not a hell of a lot. But their can sales have increased so much. Their numbers are actually better now than they were a year ago.
That's what Mike at Nicky said. He said, he goes, yeah, because we've done well.
Yeah, I think that's like the. I mean, there's breweries that have done well. There's breweries that have done really well, and there's breweries that haven't done so well. But the off-premise package sales, the grocery stores are doing great, and I mean,
So just I got to say with Lottie Dottie, we were talking about the hop fade. The hop fade's enough on this. I can really taste the wheat that you were talking about. That's how much the hops have faded.
You're not supposed to be able to taste the wheat. The wheat's supposed to just be body.
Exactly. But I can taste the wheat because the hops have faded enough that the wheat is. So that's how I know that these hops have faded, because I can taste the wheat in this.
Is there flake notes in there too, Jess, or is there just?
Yeah, a touch. It might be flaked.
Look at that. What do you think?
It might be flaked wheat. We use flaked wheat often. Especially on the. I'm a big fan of the wheat heavy mash bill as opposed to the oat heavy. I mean, we do oat heavy beers too, but I'm a big fan of the wheat heavy mash bill. And that beer, because it was one of the first three we brewed, I was playing with what could get through our mash tun on the adjunct side at the highest percentages. So when we Bushberg, our Pilsner, had a 30% corn the first time we brewed it.
Really?
3 times we brewed it. Because I was trying to figure out if I could mash enough corn to make bourbon. And the answer is no.
That would be a no.
It stuck every time. And so we were like, all right, fuck it.
You can't do that.
Now Bushberg is 100% Pilsner malt. Just to be like a super classic lager, but
sure. And it's tasty too. Matt Potensky just said that Brick City's been sending kegs over to Europe.
What?
Okay. There you go. Joe found an outlet for some keg sales.
Yeah, good for Joe.
There you go. So, getting back to your spirits though, to wrap that up. So you're on a regular basis. You're canning cocktails still now.
The winter business is definitely seasonal. Like it's summer. It's summer.
Sure. Oh yeah. That's King Cocktails is a big summer.
I mean, they work for off premise and they work for on prem with like huge outdoor locations where velocity is more important than margin, right? Where we can put this across the bar and somebody will pay whatever for it,
Yeah.
But
I was just curious if that was translating the can sales now through the pandemic and everything else was translating to your canned cocktail sales as well.
It definitely is. Last summer we definitely had our best canned cocktail summer, but then October, November it all just dies off. Right. You know what I mean?
So it didn't carry over, even a lower percentage. It didn't even carry over.
Yeah, not that much.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So they went back down to what they normally are over the winter, so to speak. Yeah. Gotcha.
Basically.
But hey, you know what? Anybody listening out there, anybody hears this, even on the replays or listening to it on the audio podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or tune in Stitcher for that matter.
Yeah, Stitcher.
Yeah. The as
don't leave them out.
as many kudos as I can give this gentleman right here about his beer, his canned cocktails are amazing too, as well as obviously spirits.
Especially those with gin in it.
Yeah, absolutely. You find any of his gin cocktail canned cocktails, and you're a gin drinker, just get it. Don't just
pick it up. Don't question.
Pick it up.
We're gonna put our first whiskey cocktail out this year.
You?
Oh, really?
Oh, nice.
Yeah. A Manhattan, an old fashioned, or
I'm thinking highball, honestly.
Highball, really?
Yeah.
That's a bold move right there.
That's interesting.
It's because highball is basically, I mean, it's beer and seltzer, right? I mean, sorry, whiskey and seltzer. I personally, I'm dry. I want to drink dry things, right? So I don't want to make something that add a bunch of sugar to.
Right.
I've definitely played around with sort of old fashions and Manhattan spritzes, but I can't put anything in a can that's 20% alcohol, right? I can't. Yeah. So
and you can't spritz a Manhattan.
It doesn't. You can't spritz a Manhattan. Like it's just wrong. You know what I mean? Like,
that's just wrong. I would call you out on that.
It needs to be, you can't just be like, oh, and we added a bunch of water. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
No, that's not the point of
Manhattan. Here's a sessionable old fashioned.
In the spirit of being sort of true to flavors, I've sort of landed on the highball as like, well, this is what this drink is, right? And it's super, and it's also like the highball has there's a track record in Japan of the highball working really well. Yeah, canned highballs in Japan are like a huge thing.
Are you distributing to Japan?
A little bit, but that's not the plan. I just think
a little bit.
I think that's
the point.
We send touches of beer. You know what I mean? Like not like a lot, but I just think that a highball in a can, if it's got a track record of working as something that's like, okay, cool. I'm looking for a whiskey drink that I can drink out of a can.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's, beer.
You're right. You can't. Yeah, you can't.
A Manhattan doesn't work that direction.
Manhattan or an old fashioned. It's
an old fashioned might, but a Manhattan is one of those things.
An old fashioned though, there's not. It's still gonna be high ABV. It's still gonna be high alcohol in that.
But the thing with a Manhattan, you should be able to put your cigarette out in the damn thing and not change the flavor, right?
Should be. Maybe.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about a highball with like a touch of lemon. You know what I mean? Basically, just like whiskey, club soda, and a touch of lemon. That's like
nice.
Really like sort of like quenches that whiskey itch, but at 7% alcohol, so that it's not gonna get you super twisted.
And also you don't want the kind of that whiskey flavor to overpower, because like you said, it's seasonal, it's summer. When you think summer, you don't think like a bourbon drink or a heavy whiskey drink.
Oh yeah, like when you think refreshing, do you think Manhattan?
No.
You know what I mean? Like you think Manhattan has its place.
Absolutely.
It's one of my favorite cocktails.
Yeah. Right at the bar. You know what I mean? Either like right before you're gonna eat a steak, or a steak and a Manhattan. There's nothing better.
It's true though, because I mean, as Megan, I'll drink beer year round, but like from pretty much all year round, I'm drinking gin, but I'm drinking more gin from like March, April till like
gin whore
till like October, November. But from November to February, I'm drinking. If I'm not drinking beer, I'm drinking old fashions.
Yeah,
that's what I'm drinking. So bourbon. But we're doing our best to sort of lift up the spirit side of our program, and the education side is a huge part of that. So we're really excited about we're open 25% now. So we had people in the brewery, in the distillery last weekend, and we're going to be open again this weekend. We've got a sweet little outdoor enclosure with these like 4,500 kilowatt heaters. In the front, or you got something
right out front? Yeah, right in the street.
Right in the
and we've had DJs, so it's like, all right, well, we'll try and keep bringing people out. I mean, the entire.
You have the garage door open to one side while you're outside.
Yeah, we open the garage door, put the speakers out there,
and got the hip hop and the rap going.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like even with COVID, it's like, well, we got to keep trying to do what our plan was, right? And just keep trying to bring people to us and teach people about what we're doing, and that's really the goal,
It works
as it is, absolutely. And if I may say so, again, not blowing smoke, but you're doing a fantastic job, and the beer is awesome, the spirits are great, and neither of us. I can't speak for Dave.
we got you. Speak for me. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I can't wait to get back there and spend some time with you, whether it be on a weekday where we're hanging out, BSing or whatever, even on a weekend.
We got it. You said you're going to have Ryan on Dorchak, right?
Ryan's coming on in 2 weeks.
He's coming up. Yeah,
2 weeks. 2 weeks from today.
We got. I love Jersey, so let's get out there and do some shit in Jersey too.
We can do that too.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, when everything loosens up, Lager Room is going to go on the road to a few places.
We'll do our Tuesday night podcast, but we're going to be doing weekly, during the day, weekend, weekly stuff.
Yeah, and I imagine we're going to have to do one of the shows at the Cloverleaf.
Oh, yeah, you got it. Yeah. In the back patio.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So, yeah, we'll let you know when we're doing that. Maybe we can lure you out.
We'll get you out.
I love going out there, and that's like what the biggest. I mean, like part of being a craft brewery owner up till last March was we were like, traveling in the areas where our beer was sold and meeting people and getting chances to meet people who owned establishments and bottle shops and just beer. And then also festivals, right? Going to festivals.
Absolutely.
Oh God, yes.
Absolutely. Like this pin right here, this Interboro pin right here. All right. You handed this to me at a bar in New Jersey, in Passaic County in Little Falls, I think it was. But anyway,
what would that be?
What was that bar in Little Falls? I don't know.
That may have been
some bar in Little Falls, I think.
Something. It was named after the street address. It was a street address.
I'm not
yeah.
quite sure.
Oh wait, really?
So this is what we're going to do when we talk to Ryan. We're going to try to talk him into a at some point when everything loosens up, into an Interboro tap takeover. And we
I'm
come.
Sure he won't mind.
No, he won't mind, and we'll come and do the show.
We'll do the show during the tap takeover. There you go.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's do that.
I love Cloverleaf so fucking much. I love that place.
How can you not?
You can't not.
I tell people about that place all the time. Like, man.
Oh yeah, so we'll corner Ryan right into that.
Absolutely.
And I don't think it will take much effort.
I don't think it will take much effort at all. All right, why don't we jump to our top threes at this point? Folks,
the reason John chose this one is because you were a music producer,
right?
So he wanted to tie beer into music.
I've had
am I going
experience
first?
in
am I going last? What
myself,
am I doing?
But
John finished his first, so we're going to make him go first.
I got to go first. All right,
you got to go first this time.
Our top three tonight.
You chose it, and you had your three immediately. Jesse and I both took a little while to come up with ours. And John actually had to give me one of mine.
I did have to give him one of his.
You did, yeah.
So I'll go first. I'll give you my top three first. Tonight's top threes, folks, is top three favorite songs with the word beer in
beer references in songs.
References of beer.
Oh, because mine don't all say beer. One of them says brew.
That's fine.
That works.
Yeah,
that works.
601.
That's why I kind of corrected
beer,
John.
Brew. If it said Ale, that'd be fine too. Anything that we're good.
There's no song out there that says IPA though.
No. But yet, I'm sure there will be.
Yet,
give it time. But my three are I'll give them to you in 3, 2, 1 order, if you will. Number three. How can you not have George Thorogood? 1 bourbon, 1 Scotch, 1 beer.
Has to be.
Have to be in there.
And that works because we've got a guy who does brews beer and distills.
And and shout out to Tom Mulvihill too.
Yeah.
Because when he drinks beer, he drinks a bourbon and a Scotch. Well, maybe not a Scotch, but a bourbon and a beer. But,
it's definitely a bourbon and a beer.
But bourbon, 1 Scotch, 1 beer definitely works. Is very apropos for this particular podcast with Jesse on.
Yes.
So how can you not have George Thorogood? There you go. And now, I drink alone probably would have worked in there too, but we're going with the one bourbon, one scotch, one beer.
Yeah, because there's no beer mentioned in I Drink Alone.
I think he does actually mention beer.
Does he really? I think it's all whiskey.
Yeah, well, the song's 19 minutes long, so I'm sure he says beer at some point. But
he must say every word in the English language at 19 minutes long.
But my number 2 would be Monmouth County, Bruce, the boss, Asbury Park, Colt Snack he's from, Glory Days. Goes back into the bar.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yep.
With the guy who threw the fastball.
Yep.
And he has a couple of beers with her. She's not divorced. She's divorced. Yeah, that whole line.
Speedball. He called it a speedball, not a
speedball. He can throw the speedball past.
Yeah. So. And then my number 1, and this is very kind of out there, a little eclectic.
And if Augie's listening right now,
if Augie's still listening, Augie's probably going to be one of the only people that gets this one. All right, but it's Rush from. There
you go. Jesse just got the reference
from Power Windows. First song on side 2. I'm giving myself away, my age away there. Side 2.
Yeah, final.
Territories. There's a line in verse 2: better people, better food, and better beer. Why move around the world when Eden was so near?
That should be a mantra for everybody right there, right?
Absolutely.
Better people, better food, better beer.
Better beer. There you go. Cheers. Miss you, Neil.
Yeah. Cheers to Mr. Peart.
So, we got a comment. Hold on. And
what's the comment?
The comment is Matt Patensky. He drinks with his good buddy Weiser. There you go.
Oh, thank you, Matt. Wow, Brian's being supplanted today.
He is, and Brian hasn't commented once.
No, he hasn't. I know he's listening though, because he's
listening. He's listening
because we have this like side group on Facebook that we talk about. I would love to put some of the comments to today's show up on the show because. We don't.
We'll share them with Jesse later, but we're not putting them on.
Yeah, we're not putting them in stuff.
But in any event, so those are my 3. George Thorogood.
I love the way Jesse just froze with his eyes wide.
That was great.
That was great.
Let's take a screenshot of that. Next time Jesse's on the show, that's the picture I'm going to use for the
got a screen. Yeah, that was it right there.
Which we call it, and then and of course number 2, Glory Days from Bruce Springsteen, and Rush. Number 1 is Rush, Territories. So there you go. Those are my 3.
I'll leave it up to you, Jess, if you want to go next or you want me to go next.
You go. I'll go. I'll finish since you guys.
So we're gonna go. So a lot of people don't know this. Back in college, I was a disc jockey.
I know that.
You know that. Yeah. I went by DC, which are my initials, because saying my last name was problematic on the air because no one would ever get it. And I would always finish the show with something called the Final Funny. And the Final Funny was usually something that would pop up on like the Dr. Demento show or something like that, right? Or a Weird Al Yankovic song. And one song that I played probably more than anything else on there was In Heaven There Is No Beer. And that's why we drink it here. And when we're gone from here, our friends will be drinking all our beer. So that when Johnny brought up the topic today, that was the first thing that came to mind. So we're going to put that at number 3. There's no order to them for me. Number 2 is the one I stole from John because it is one of my favorite lines in rock and roll. Period. Not the favorite, but one of the favorites.
It's one of the best lines in rock and roll history. Not the best, one of the top whatever, but it's one of the top lines.
I'm going to forget the line right now.
I'll help you if you want.
I woke up this morning and grabbed myself a beer.
Got
myself a beer.
There you go.
Roadhouse Blues by the Doors. Boom, 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 boom. Being a bass player, and it's like John is himself. You got to throw that one in there. So. Just a great line because you know what they say. You can't say you claim to drink all day unless you start in the morning.
Exactly.
So you roll out of bed, crack yourself a beer, and there you go.
There you go.
But then we're going to go back to Mr. I just got a DUI on my motorcycle.
I was going to ask you guys if I'm going to mention that.
Yeah, he got a DUI on his motorcycle for blowing a .02. I mean,
there's so much controversy behind this, but my favorite Springsteen song, and maybe because it starts off with the line, the Rangers had a homecoming in Harlem late last night, and I hope he's talking about the hockey team because that's what love the Rangers. But there's the barefoot girl sitting on the hood of a Dodge, drinking warm beer in the soft summer rain, and that would be Jungle Land.
That's poetic.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. That's one of the most poetic beer lines ever sung. Sang.
Let's say written because it's poetry.
It's written as poetry. Yeah. And the fact that she's drinking warm beer tells me it has to be craft beer because you know that big beer when it warms up is just absolute piss. So that would be my number one, even though I said I'm not putting them in order. That's number one because that's my favorite Bruce song. And I actually got to see him in Tampa. I forget how long ago that was. It's probably about 7 or 8 years ago. Got to meet him after the show, as a matter of fact. That's a whole nother story we're not going to get into.
There's a reason for that, but yeah,
there's a big reason for that. We won't get into that. But that show, someone was holding up a sign in the audience that said, "Please play Jungle Land so I can die in peace." And it was that's a rarity in the Springsteen show for them to play Jungle Land, and he played Jungle Land in that show, and that was awesome. I don't know what's better for me, listening to Jungle Land live or meeting Bruce afterwards. Probably the latter. But
I was going to say probably the latter. But listening to Jungle Land live is probably it's a close second.
That's a pretty close second right there.
Yeah.
All right, you're up, Jess.
All right, so I'm having a hard time deciding the order.
Oh, don't bother with the order. Just toss them out.
My number 3. I guess I'll go with Ice Cube. Today was a good day. Mine are going to be very divergent from yours.
Gee, I wonder why.
So what's the line
in the what is it, the third verse? She says, "Picked up a girl I've been trying to fuck since the 12th grade. It's ironic. I had the brew, she had the chronic. The Lakers beat the Supersonics."
Yes.
And he goes on to, sort of
There's a lot of rhyming in that.
Yeah, and sort of what's the word? A little more exposition about what the brew did. Later on, he says, "Drunk as hell, but no throwing up. Halfway home, my page is still blowing up. Today, I didn't have to use my AK. I got to say it was a good day." And so,
this is a different kind of poetry.
Yeah, it's still poetry nonetheless.
It's all poetry. It's all
poetry.
That's my number 3 because you can't go to a good party and not hear "Today Was a Good Day" by Ice Cube. That's just my own opinion. My number 2 is a little more introspective reflection on alcohol, as a song that I helped from one of the groups that I put out when I was on Def Trucks called Painkillers. And it sort of talks about self-medication and alcohol and beer in that song, but produced by LP, and very awesome song. Painkillers by Cannibal Ox. I don't have the lyrics in front of me, but it's one of my favorite. The beat is like a John Coltrane sort of tenor sax sort of squeal behind with some really awesome drums.
Really,
it's a great song.
What's the name of the song again?
Painkillers
by Cannibal Ox.
Yeah, by Cannibal Ox. I tried to call a beer Painkillers, and then of course the TTB shut it down because you aren't allowed to name a beer anything that with a claim of
drug reference,
or claim of any sort of positive.
Yeah.
You know what's really interesting is the pen I grabbed to write down Painkillers by Cannibal Ox.
Yeah.
Can you see this?
No, it's not in focus.
I've got a whole bunch of pens here. I just reached and grabbed one. I stole it from Carton Brewing.
I was going to say it's orange. That'd be a carton pen.
And then my number 1.
There's 20 pens here. Anyway,
my number one is from the recently deceased MF Doom, All Out of Ale, and that obviously has ale.
Right in the title.
Also, one of the only rap songs I could find that actually referenced ale as opposed to
just straight up beer.
MF Doom is like one of my favorite rappers of all fucking time. And
okay, so with all the contacts that you have in that world, we're now tasking you with getting like the IPA into it. Yeah, there we go.
I'll work on that.
You got to work on that.
You got to work on that. I'm gonna throw another two really quick. I'll make them. I won't make this long.
And one of my favorites. I dare Johnny to say this on air.
Well, no, then it'll be.
Oh, you're gonna let. So then it's three.
It'll be three. Well, the first one I just want to say is Tom T. Hall. Back in, old time singer. 50s or whatever.
50s.
I like beer.
It's considered country.
50s country, yeah. I like beer. It makes me a jolly good fellow. That's it.
I've got an old.
That's
and it's
an old what?
LP.
LP,
long play.
And it's like some weird compilation from when you guys were kids or something like that, and it's
before you were born.
Before you were born,
right?
It's like,
that was a nice way of saying that.
It's like drinking songs on it, and that song is definitely on it.
Tom T. Hall, absolutely, yeah. The second one I'm going to mention really quick is what would have been my number three. It was number four was a damn close number three, which I wanted to throw in there because Jesse was on the show, which was one bourbon, one scotch, one beer. But it would have been which we call it Scenes from Italian Restaurant from Billy Joel.
Oh,
yeah.
Was he mentioned beer in that?
Cold beer, hot lights, my sweet romantic teenage nights.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember those days hanging out by the Village Green? Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, so that would have been my number three, and
but the next one
I pushed it in, and then the other one was Frank Zappa.
Yeah.
Frank Zappa and his classic song "Titties and Beer."
Here's to beer. Here's to titties.
Here's the titties and beer. There you go.
I'm out of beer.
So. You are not out of beer. You're
out
of beer.
No.
You're out of beer at your desk. Your fridge is over there. So.
I'm out of the fridge over there is more beer than food.
So, but Anyway, it's been crazy, and this was an awesome, awesome show.
Yes.
And thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. Anything before we close though? Anything interesting other than that whiskey release in May? That first whiskey release in May. Anything else you want to mention? Anything else happening coming up soon?
We're just come visit us in Brooklyn when you can. That's like the
we will.
Yeah, other than that, it's like we're thank you New Jersey, because New Jersey's drinking a shit ton of beer. So thank you. Keep drinking.
Absolutely.
Well, Jersey, it's full of alcoholics.
Beer. We'll call them beeraholics. We'll call them. Nicer term there.
Well, I think drunks is a better term.
That's fine too. That's fine.
Thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Oh no,
you were one on the top of the list, and we definitely wanted to get you on. So, and again, we'll do it again soon. We'll come out by you and do that Instagram live show, and then we'll definitely have something. We'll talk Ryan in a couple of weeks when he's on the show.
Oh
about getting
Cloverleaf. That's fun.
Absolutely, definitely.
Yeah, we got to get him going. You got to make sure you've got enough to take over all his taps.
I'm sure that won't be a problem. But in any event, all right, let's wrap that up for today. We want to thank everybody for watching, and for those of you that are just listening to the audio podcast, thanks for listening. Don't forget to visit our website, www.lagerum.com. That's LAGEROM.com. And please remember, like us and follow us on all of our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our YouTube channel. All of them are at The Lager Room. And remember, we go live with the video podcast on both Facebook and YouTube every Tuesday at 5:30. For those of you that want to just listen to the audio podcast, you can do so on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, and Stitcher. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to one or more of those feeds, and you'll never miss a show. Again, thanks for following along with us. Have a great rest of the week. Have a wonderful weekend. Again, Jesse, thanks for coming on. It was an awesome show.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Grab yourself some Interboro.
Absolutely. Yes. Go get it and get the cans too. And get the
and
cocktails too.
anything that's got gin in it.
Anything.
Make John happy.
Gin and tonic, the hibiscus gin and tonic, gin and juice, all of them.
Gin and juice.
And pick up Premier. And if you want to scroll back 2.5 years on the Interboro's Instagram profile, you can see a Premier can with my hand. There you go. So that's definitely the highlight of that post. There you go. Anyway. All right, guys. Have a great one. Take care, guys. Cheers. We'll talk to you soon.
Night all.
They found the face down in his waffles, maple syrup dripping from his fake rug. Who did he see when he heard who was there? Now it seems that he shit out of luck. This little piggy went to market. This little piggy stayed home. This little piggy's eating corned beef in the back of a Ford Pinto.